That time, it's like, we've been building this brand for 2 years. You're telling me now we don't have a name and we can't physically legal register that name? We're like, what the fuck do we do?
Bruno Casanovas, creative director and co-founder of Nude Project.
A brand that has quickly risen in popularity throughout Europe, securing deals with huge brands like Playboy.
We did our first ever pop-up in Amsterdam. And I think there was like a line of like 1,000 people waiting outside when we arrived. We were opening at 11. There's people camping from 2 a.m.
Can you take us all the way back to the beginning?
But back in the day, you're just running off of intuition. It's not like me and Alex sat down one day and made like this big business plan.
So the first year, how many revenue did you do?
The first year, it was very small. We were making like maybe 2,000 euros a month. In year 5, we did the 27 million. And then this year,
Can you tell me about like the biggest fuck up in the moment?
it gets to a point where it's like that year where we're actually going to start making like a decent amount of money.
You built one of the biggest Spanish podcasts. How did the podcast come about? Because you're a clothing brand, not a podcast.
So that was the funny thing. That's how it started.
So Bruno, welcome. You've managed to build a company that does $30 million of revenue a year. You've done this within 5 years from scratch, no financial backers or anything, bootstrapped. And I think that's unbelievable. There's a lot of big things happening or going to happen in the upcoming months and years. But I want to start at the beginning. You and your business partner, Alex, you met on one day. Can you take us all the way back to the beginning? How did you guys meet?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's an honor. After the great Daniel Dallin, E-Man's been here. A bunch of the homies have been around. So
Cool.
I've gotten a good word of mouth of this podcast. And I
Great
love
to
that
hear.
you guys are supporting the entrepreneur community. I think we need more support from entrepreneurs because they're my favorite people, man. When I meet an entrepreneur, my eyes just fucking go like out of a cartoon scene, like they brighten up. I love entrepreneurs. I think they're superhumans. If you get to meet them, you'll be amazed at what it takes to lead companies, grow with people. It's super hard. It's a big mission. So for you guys to give them light and give them a space to be able to talk and tell their stories, first of all, congrats.
Thank you.
Cheers to you because you're helping build a beautiful society.
Thank you very much.
So that's first of all. And second, thanks for having me on as an entrepreneur.
Very welcome, man. Of
Yes.
course. Thanks for having the time and making the time.
And let's get to it. The question was,
How did you guys meet?
how do we meet? Look, me and Alex, okay? So let me take you back and put you a bit in context. This is 2018-19 we're talking about. So I'm a 2000 baby. I'm 24 now. When we first met, I was 18. And Alex was 18. He's the same age as me. I'd grown up in Bali from when I was 10 to 18 years old. So it was a bit of like a weird childhood. My parents were like sort of hippies. So they were hippies, but they were very open-minded. My dad was over the city eventually because we'd grown up in Madrid. We went to live in Bali. Grew up in like an international school, surfing, like the most surreal and amazing upbringing as far as like super enriching, like culturally. Then from there on, Alex, I'm growing up there, while Alex, in the meantime, is growing up in Burgos. They both start with a B, but they're very different. Burgos is like a small town in Spain. There might be 200,000 people living in the city. And he was from a very, very small town, very normal, everything like very good, but very normal. It's not, I think he didn't miss out on anything in life, but it was just very, very normal. So when we met, it was like the most surreal thing because after growing up in Bali, I go back to Spain to study in university. And Alex was a person that had already known me. When I say he had already known me, I had a YouTube channel back in the day, which is completely doesn't exist anymore. I've archived all the videos. I don't want to get canceled for the thing I was doing back in the day. But I used to post YouTube videos about my life in Bali. And I'd take it very seriously. I'd post one a week. I'd film on Saturdays and edit on Sundays, post it that same Sunday because during the week I was going to school. And out of like the 200 views, or I don't even know if I was getting 200 views back in the day. I was getting 150, 200. That was the average. Some of those views were my mom, my uncle, my sister, blah, 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 like people related to my family. But one of them was Alex. And it was like the most random thing because he'd watched people that I had in common, like Casey Neistat, all these Jay Alvarez, all these references we had back in the day. And one day my video recommended to him. So he started watching my videos. He texted me. Then we connected and he was like, yo, love the videos. We ended up chatting. We ended up linking up like a couple weeks after that message. And after linking up for the first time, we met up for like a coffee and to take some photos. 2 weeks after that, we'd created the brand together.
Really?
It was like a very magical thing, no? I think I'm a big believer that magic and energies exist in this world. And I think that the relationship I had with Alex was destined to be. There was a lot of luck because there's a lot of aspect to be meeting. But at the same time, I think there was also a big law of attraction of him having this needs and this vision for something in life. Me having a very similar vision and like a literally 3,000 kilometers away from him in like a different island. But being so connected with the vision that eventually life just like brought us together. Yeah. And that's like the seed to what this project has become.
A real vision of luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Absolutely.
Which is a very cheesy line that has been overused, but it's very true.
The cheesy lines, we have to say something about cheesy lines. Cheesy lines are cheesy because they're real, you know? It's like cliches. True. It's like when someone talks about karma or the balance, mentality, blah, it's always going to be a bit cringeworthy when you hear it. But it's because it's so true and it's been said over and over and over again because it's true.
It's been tried and proven.
There's nothing cheesy about it.
Yeah. A strong online appearance has been a huge factor in the Nude Project's success. And ads play a big role in this. But with all these outdated ad trackers, you could be losing a fortune on ads without knowing which ones drive results. Apple's iOS 14, ad blockers, cookies, and Meta's unreliable data are dragging your data accuracy down to as low as 40%. With WeTrack.io, you'll bring that accuracy back up to 100%. You'll know exactly which ads drive revenue and can change your strategy according to it. This way, you'll optimize spending and make decisions based on real data instead of guesswork. WeTrack guarantees the best ad tracking available. You can save up to 64% on ad spend and triple your revenue from ads. Try it out for free for 14 days. Set it up in 5 minutes and their support team is available 24/7. Are you ready to stop losing money on ineffective ads? Click the link in the description for a 20% discount on your first 3 months. Plus, you can try it for free for 2 weeks and see the results for yourself. So what was the common ground or like the connecting perspective? Because I think looking at the content you guys make and everything, you are two very different persons.
Absolutely.
What was the common ground that made you want to start a business together?
Great question. Look, when we first started thinking, Alex already had an idea to create like a bikini brand because we were both very big fans of Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary V, for the people that don't know him, is one of the biggest entrepreneurs.
One of the big reasons we're here as well.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. He was one of the big inspirations.
He was like the first entrepreneur content person, at least I'd known. And he opened the gates to many kids that had no idea what entrepreneurship was about. So shout out Gary V. Amazing guy.
For sure.
And we'd both have him in common, and we wanted to start some type of business, something. No, both of us had that in common. And Alex was like, I'm thinking about making this bikini brand. I already started like an Instagram account, and he already recollected like some inspiration photos and stuff. He's like, let's do bikinis because I feel like clothing is super cool, but it's oversaturated because there's so many clothing brands. So let's do something that's a bit different. And he'd already developed like one sample. And I was always thinking, I'm like, this might be a bit strange, you know, like two young men making bikinis. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't feel too real to me, you know. It feels a bit strange because I want to make things I can wear. And to this day, I don't feel completely comfortable wearing bikinis right now in the point of life I'm in. So I was like, yeah, I don't know about bikinis, but if you want me on board, let's do clothing. Because I had like more of an eye for creativity, for fashion. It's not like I was a fashionista, but I had an interest in fashion, and he had more of an interest in content and in business. So I'm like, dude, if we mash these two things up together, I think we can get something quite special. So he was like, fuck it. He didn't think about it too much. He's like, okay.
Was that something you were aware of at that time also? Like,
what?
Usually when friends or family start a business together, it's because they like the same thing. So for example, they're both creative. They like making video. They start a video business together. When eventually you usually find out, well, if we're both creative, who's going to run the business?
Yeah.
No one. So it starts clashing and it doesn't really work out. Were you guys really like aware, like we're going to be compatible because we're different in these places?
I think when you look back now, you connect all the dots and it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're like, okay, so we had this mission, we had this vision. Alex was like this, and I was like this. Everything makes sense, no? But back in the day, you're just running off of intuition. I think it's not like me and Alex sat down one day and made like this big business plan and said, okay, Alex, you're good at tan, focus on these things. Bruno, you're good at tan, focus on this. If we do these things together correctly, you're going to be the CEO. I'm going to be the creative director. We're going to have this mission, and this is how you're going to contribute to it, and this is how I'm going to contribute to it. There was never that conversation, and I think it'd be quite fictitious if I told you there was something like that going on. It was intuition. We just wanted to do cool stuff. We thought that there was clothes we wanted to wear that weren't in the stores and that we'd like to create. And we also thought there wasn't a brand that fully represented our values and how we saw life. So we kind of were like, if there's no one doing it how we think we could be doing it, because we have these inspirations that are very varied. No, there's inspirations that I could, as a young kid, I was consuming Casey Neistat while I was consuming Jay Alvarez and that whole travel lifestyle. I was also consuming Gary Vaynerchuk. I loved hip hop music and the American culture. There was these so many random and various topics I thought I'd like and I'd put together that I felt like no other brand was representing that message and that lifestyle. So that we put A and B together and we're like, oh, this could work out. But it was with a super naive mindset, I feel like what people, there's a message I can share with people is, don't get too hyped up in the beginning about like an idea, because I think the most important thing to try out. I heard in a Netflix, the podcast from the CEO of Netflix on Diary of CEO, which I loved. He talked a lot about how all ideas are bad ideas. In the beginning, you're like, oh, you have like someone around watching and they're like, no, dude, I have a fucking amazing idea. What are you telling me about? I have great ideas all the time. And what he meant by every idea is a bad idea is that unless you test it out in the market, whichever market it is, and the client says it's a good thing or they want to buy it or they want to be part of it, it's not a good idea because it's just an idea. And unless there's an execution and the execution has a success in the potential market, the idea is bad. And he said that a lot. And I like the message because there's a lot of people nowadays, especially in the business realm, where they're like, dude, I'm going to have the best idea in the world. I'm not going to tell anyone about it because I don't want people to steal my idea. It's so good that I'm going to do a finance round where I'll probably get up to 2 million euros to be able to finance this idea. You get the 2 million, then you're like, I'm going to build the whole structure and a whole team of like 14 people so we can put together this idea and the launch be amazing. And you've literally might have been working for like 2 and 3 years of an idea that you don't even know if the market is going to like or if they're going to approve of it. All that to like literally do the launch after 3 years of work and maybe no one giving a fuck or no one caring about that product or that idea. So the message he was giving to the kids was that in Netflix, they tried things all the time and they wouldn't stop trying. It's like, we rather put it together quite quickly and it not being perfect, but we rather test it out to see if it happens. If it works, the market likes it, we'll develop it and make it better. But test, because that's the easiest way to find out what people like and what people don't like. And is the easiest way also to fuck up. And from fucking up is where you learn most. So if you fuck up quicker, the better you're going to get.
Actually, we were talking to, I think he was like a brain scientist or something in the podcast 1 or 2 weeks ago. And he was telling us about this autistic kid, which was having a lot of trouble just living almost. Like everything was too much for him because he was very rigid. He wanted to be everything as he thought it should be. And there was no way to handle this kid. So he got placed out of his home. His parents didn't know what to do. And at some point he started talking to the kid. And he started understanding that he needed like a guidance for life. And that his guidance now was his own frame of mind and the way he looked at the world. And it didn't like match up. So he was in a constant state of chaos. And then they started rewiring him to tell him, what if you were starting to look at life as an experiment? So the frame you look at life through is everything as an experiment. And if I do the experiment, that's good. And the outcome doesn't matter because I've just found out what I wanted in the experiment, which is the outcome, which cannot be good or bad. And that completely changed the autistic kid and made him to an amazing kid. And he was be able to live with his parents again. Yes. And I started thinking about this. And this is something that helped me a lot. Like if I, in business, look at everything as just an experiment, I cannot make bad choices. I can just learn. And it's something that's maybe to some people it's like very logical, but to me, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you start chasing the right thing. But if you start chasing doing the right thing, that's usually when it starts to get very depressing, because if you don't, you get down and you do it again and it goes wrong, and then you just get it like in a dark circle of doing the wrong thing. So I couldn't agree more. Test.
Completely, man. I love the vision, and I think what you said is that for some people maybe it's very obvious, but I think most relevant things in life are very obvious. Like, the world is more simple than people make it out to be. You know, we as humans, we love to make complex everything, relationships, businesses. We like to create like complexity to it because we're so diverse. But at the same time, it's you figure out that the best businessman, the best artists, the best people, the biggest references we have in culture are people that were able to make something complex very simple. So I think sometimes when you're saying, oh, this was very obvious or this was very simple, sometimes what we just need is that right person, that right example, that right mentor that makes what we've been thinking about in such a complex form very simple and very straightforward. And that's how we connect and learn the most. So most things are very simple. We just need to hear them in the right way to fully interiorize the message.
Couldn't agree more. So going back to the moment you met, 2 weeks later, the business is born. Can you take us into the first month of the business? Like, what do you guys do? Where do you start?
That's an amazing question. You know, I've actually maybe never been asked about like that specific of the first month of the business. I love that. The first month, let me go back because my memory is every day is worse at this point. But
I understand.
The first month, I remember. I'm gonna talk about the first month after the launch. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So the first month, we spent like maybe a month and a half preparing the first drop. It was maybe 2-3 months almost of like making the first 2 designs, printing the t-shirts that we got in a local manufacturer. Like we had no resources almost. We started off with the money me and Alex had. So we both put 300 euros in each. It's like the typical, not typical, but it's like that American garage type story, you know, because it's the truth. It's we had the resources that we'd saved up from doing works in university. Alex had done like videos for like weddings and like a ski station. He'd done and a restaurant. I remember he'd done a few videos working as a videographer at that point, and I'd done my little things where I had another clothing brand beforehand. I'd had a couple side hustles where in school when they're the kendamas, I don't know if you know what a kendama is. It's this wooden, wow, this is taking me back in time. It's like this wooden stick worth a ball that became super trendy in like Bali, and you couldn't buy it in Bali. So I remember going to Singapore, buying like so many of these and selling them in school for like 3 times the price I was buying them for. So I'd done my little hustle business. I like the business aspect. I knew like, if you asked me as a kid, what I wanted to be was like, I want to be a businessman. You know, I was always very, very into that. And Alex was maybe in the beginning more in touch with that creative aspect, but also watching Gary Vee and stuff. So he was also in tune with it. So we'd have a little money. We started off, we both threw 300 euros each, which was already like a commitment at the time of like, oh, we're taking this seriously, basically. And then with those 600 euros, we made like the first 15 t-shirts maybe. And as far as production of content and everything was in-house. You know, it's not like we were going out to people to need to make content. Alex was put together the first videos. The first video, and I wish maybe you can find this to show it in the podcast. But the first video is me as a model, as the voice of the video, because I'm always like rapping in the video, not rapping, but I'm like telling the story of the brand and going with the rhythm. Yeah. And Alex was the editor and filmmaker. So it's like with me and him, literally, and you can see the video, we documented the process of creating those first 2 garments. Nice. So like the first piece of content we ever released to the world, which already became kind of viral in the moment because it was like different to what people were doing in Spain, was a piece of like how we created the first drop. Cool. So it was already like documenting the behind the scenes more instead of focusing on the actual outcome of the product itself, telling the story of how we created that.
It's interesting because that's integrated into the DNA of the brand. Then.
Absolutely, man. And I think it's integrated into the reality of the world nowadays and how consumers are buying and how big personal brands are becoming. I think we've we were lucky enough to be in touch with the culture and be super young to like know that this is what we thought we needed. You know, we thought we needed more brands that I could connect with, and naturally, if I'm a human, I'm gonna connect more with another human than with a big corporation. So we felt like the days for the big corporates were a bit more over because we felt very disconnected from them in sort of sense. And then we were like, so if we feel disconnected from these big brands, how about we make it super personal? Show ourselves, show who Alex is, show who Bruno is. Let people, allow people to connect with us and show the process of us creating this brand in order to like promote the end product. Yeah. So that was kind of like the first piece of content, and it went slightly viral. You would say we got like, I think, 10,000 views at that time, which for a brand that has no followers or anything was big. Like it become very trendy through word of mouth of like our friends. And I want to do a quick parenthesis here. A lot of people talk. It's very cool to talk when you're like come up or a certain type of success, to talk about how no one supported you, no one helped me out, no one believed the vision, my teachers didn't approve of it. But honestly, for us, we were quite lucky that it was almost the opposite, I would say. Like our friends supported us so much. I always say that our first markets when we started the brand were the online store, Alex's student housing, his university, my student housing, and my university. Those were our markets, you know, because we'd appear to the school with a backpack full of hoodies. I was like a healthy drug dealer, sort of say. I'd pull up with like the backpack filled with hoodies and sell them to the kids in my class, tell them about how we made the design, give them a special discount of like, yo, if your name's Chris, I'm going to give you the 50% Chris discount, and give them like this whole little pitch that connected with their friends. They wanted to support their homies, and they also became huge brand ambassadors of the brand, because if anyone would tell them like, yo, that hoodie's so cool, where's it from? They'd be like, yo, well, these two kids created this brand. They're from Barcelona, they're from Madrid, and they did this, they did that, super cool. So they'd become like natural brand ambassadors, and that word of mouth you started seeding initially. So going back to what I was telling you in the first place is that video, I think, already started blowing up because our homies were so already with the message of the brand and with what we were doing that they all reshared it, and like we shared it on, I remember, this is the hustle, okay, what we're talking about. Not only were friends were resharing the videos, we would always also, every launch we would do or every video we wanted promotion for, we would send them through all like the family chats and like all the common group chats we had on WhatsApp, and we would always be like, yo guys, we released this piece, please, and we do like custom messages for each of the chat, so it would adapt to the different personalities, and we would end up giving them like a discount or like a bonus point if they share the video. So that initial hustle was very like word of mouth. But when I say word of mouth, I truly mean word of mouth. Like me going to my mom, me going to my dad, me going to my cousin, me going to any group chat I had and telling them about what we were doing because we thought it was so cool.
Grinding it out.
So yeah, that first month, that was a bit of the perspective as far as the first piece of content we did and how it turned out. Our friends supporting us and the creation of like our first initial community, let's say. Yeah. And then there was also a lot of like learnings of like we didn't know anything, you know. So it's like anything we wanted to learn about how to production, how to externalize production, how to outsource product, how to grow a team. We literally like would Google and research everything because we had no idea, you know. I think especially now kids are super lucky that every day there's more podcasts, even what Daniel's doing, even what Iman's done. I think it gives a lot of perspective on, we're not alone anymore. You know, we have kids that are our age or a similar age to us that are literally doing it and that are literally speaking about it publicly and showing you how they've done it. Yeah. So I think the paradigm is going to shift quite a bit because there's this new wave of content creators that are showing everything they're doing. But at the same time, when we started, the only person I had when I started, or I felt I'd read Shoe Dog from Phil Knight.
Amazing.
So amazing book. That's part of the flame that ignited all this. I'd watched Ben Francis and the videos he started making. So Ben Francis, to the people who don't know, is the founder of Gymshark, legend. And I think I'd watch maybe at the time like a podcast of Reese Wabara and George Heaton too.
Manier
They
de
did like a
Voir.
podcast way back with Lewis Morgan, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. So those were like the only references and Gary Vee, of course. Please, sorry, don't kill me, Gary. Gary Vee, of course.
King V.
But those are like the few references I had in the business side
man,
that I
for
could
sure.
really look up to. And they had, Ben Francis had a bunch of videos, but there wasn't a lot of content
Yeah.
of it. And now it's changed, you know, there's abundance of content.
It's interesting because, especially when you were in Bali, we grew up in completely different parts of the world. I grew up in Utrecht. I mean, most of the people watching this are probably not even going to know what Utrecht is. I watched exactly the same things. Man, I was 15, 16, looking at like fitness videos, and at some point there was like two guys coming up with Audi R8s. I was like, who the fuck are these guys?
Yeah.
And it was two guys making Gymshark clothing, the
Crazy.
old training suits like from back in the days. And that was for me the same thing. It sparked something in me like, wait, but I can build my own company?
Yeah.
If that's possible, then why would I ever work at a different company? And it's very interesting to hear like all the inspirations you had are like almost the same as
That's
me
funny.
and my co-hosts as well had. So
That's
it's very cool
funny.
to see. And I think, as you said, like if that's the impact that it had on us when it was quite niche,
Super.
imagine the impact it's going to be when you see everything that's going on right now when it started to become mainstream even.
Completely. And I think the inputs kids are going to have are going to be so much larger. There's going to be so many people that they can look up to. So diverse too.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I was looking at Ben Francis, and I literally, to this day, I still love Ben Francis. I think what he's done is so unique. I think he's such a good guy. But me personally, I couldn't relate so much to Ben Francis because I felt like I was so different. You know, he was
Yeah.
so British, polite, correct, young, but very like smart. And I felt like I was very different, where I was like, I was also, of course, also young, but I was very like nervous. I was always very speaking a lot. I was very diverse. So it's like my personality was so distant to his that even though I connected with the message and everything was doing it, got super inspired, I'd never found like a person that I felt that I could fully relate to, you know?
Yep.
And now I think with all the diversity where you have, let's say, I'm going to talk about the classic examples because you've had them also on the podcast, but Daniel is so different, for example, from what Iman is.
For sure.
And now you have George Heaton, which is completely different from all of them. And maybe even me for like the Latin community, like the whole South and like the Spain and Latin community, they can relate to me. So there's like, I think there's way more references in these different targets that people can relate to that are all creating businesses.
Yeah, man, I love it. Also, the thing that I really like, as I told you before the podcast, like speaking to all these entrepreneurs, I have like a very privileged job to be able to speak to a lot of these people. But online as well, you can see, I love it that there's like people saying, no, man, you don't need to get up at 6 a.m, get into your ice bath and do everything. No,
Yeah.
you can be way different. Maybe don't care about sports or anything like that and be just very creative and build brick. But you can be whatever you want. And that's a thing I struggled with in the past, is like questioning to myself, like, do I have it in me to be like a big entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Because if I look at these people, for example, Ben Francis, I'm not him. So
Yeah.
if I'm not him, can I be successful? Because I mean, I've never seen somebody like me be that successful.
Completely.
So what you say completely hits home for me as well. I want to go back to, firstly, I want to know, like, how did the revenue of Nude Project develop over the years? Because I heard it in an interview and I wanted to ask it straight from the source. So the first year, how many revenue did you do?
Let's see. I'm not the numbers guy, so I'll probably get a few off. Maybe Alex comments on this video, like adjust what I say.
Yeah.
But let's see. I
Rectification.
think the first year it was something. There's a first year that doesn't really count because the first year it was very small. Like it was like, I don't think it was like nothing. We were making like maybe 2,000 euros a month or 3,000 euros a month. So I think that year doesn't really count. But like when we started taking it fully seriously, full time, ongoing, which is like the second year, I think we did 700,000 euros the first year. Second year we did year 2, sorry, I'm gonna get this right. Year 2 we did 700,000. Year 3 we do 2.5 million. Year 4 we do 11 and a half, I think, 11 million. And year 5 we did the 27 million, which I think is in the article of Forbes and everything, and maybe the number you you said 30 million, making maybe in dollars is
Yeah, in
different.
dollars.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to
Yeah,
get
no
it
worries.
wrong. And then this year, right now we're in October, and I'm not gonna say a number because I don't like I don't like saying numbers before we do them. You know, I'm a very money where your mouth is. I rather do it. I rather get it done, and then we'll talk about it. I'm super down to share because I think it's important to share numbers so kids can understand like the magnitude of things, and I think it's very, in order to be able to relate and to be able to wanting to be you or wanting to create your business, they need to see the numbers. The numbers are inspiring, even though they can be braggadocious in some way. I think it's also inspiring and it's important in a business center. So I'm down to share the numbers of this year, but once we're finished the year and we're done, all I can share is that we've grown a lot, and I'm super happy and proud of the way the year has developed and the things we've done, and we'll talk about them later in detail. But this year is going to be huge for us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool. We all know an unprofessional website hurts your image as a business owner.
But hiring a website service is risky. What if you pay all the money and the site still looks nothing like you wanted?
With Easy Online, you get a team of pros to build and maintain your website.
You will get a free preview before paying anything. So no risk or wasting money on a site that isn't right for you.
Plus, if you choose Easy Online, there's a one-time setup fee and a monthly subscription, just like a phone plan.
The plans start from 40 euros per month, and through our link, you will get the first month for free.
So click the link in the description to request your free website preview today. So I want to go into the second year, but maybe first year as like, there's 1 year that's the warm up, and then like it's time to really get going. So you do 700K the first real business year.
Yeah.
What are the things that you start doing that make it that you can have this rapid growth? Because if you're doing 2-3K a month, you get to about maybe 30-40K a year. So that's almost a 20x on what you did the year before.
Yeah.
What started this growth?
Great question. Let's talk. We were talking about it off camera before, but I think content is just so scalable, which is insane. It's amazing. No, one of my favorite mentors and philosophers, Naval Ravikant. He's appeared on Joe Rogan multiple times. He has his own podcast. He has books which are amazing, super recommendable.
He
to
even
anyone.
Has Twitter threads, which are
life
insane. Insights that will be with you forever.
Insane. So I love Naval and his way of seeing life. And he said, I might misword some of the things, so don't quote me on this. But he said that coding and content are the two most scalable things in the society we live nowadays, no? Because coding is, you can literally create a code. And I suck at coding. I would never, that's not my future. But you can literally create a code that creates a Facebook in the future. And that's just one very simple code, well, very complex, but simple towards the outside, can create like a multi-billion-dollar business. So it's super scalable. And content also, because we talked about it before, but from this podcast we filmed, there'll be this hour-long podcast on YouTube, which will be amazing. But then maybe you guys start doing clips of this and start clipping it and posting on different socials. Maybe I start doing clips on this and start posting them on my different socials. So maybe out of this piece of content we're filming, eventually, in like a span of 6 months, there'll be like 150 pieces of content that have been regenerated just from this interview we're doing that is going to be an hour and a half. So content is extremely scalable. And I think that's something businesses have to back themselves on in the new wave of business creation. And I think that's exactly what was our biggest scaling technique, let's say. No, in the beginning, it was the whole word of mouth of our friends talking about the hoodies, talking about the brand, spreading our message to other friends, which was already super important. But also we took content very seriously because we felt like the brand we wanted to create was very personal and very close. And all the brands we knew back then, it's like they were super cold. You know, they were like big corporate companies. I felt like I talked to Alex. I'm like, imagine if, let's say I put the example of Stussy because it was like my favorite brand back in the day. I'm like, imagine if Stussy, if I knew who the owner of Stussy was and he was posting the story. You know, imagine if Stussy, when I tagged them in a post of like me wearing a hoodie of Stussy, they responded to my DM and said like, yo, that outfit is hard as fuck. Bruno, keep going. Imagine if that was the treat I was getting from the brands I admire. I would trip out. As a fan, I would be amazed, you know, if they reposted my story on their story, if they responded to the stories I was doing, if they responded to my messages, this would be super special. So I'm like, okay, we feel like brands aren't doing this, or at least the brands we know. So how about we create a brand that is super personal? You know who we are, you know what we're doing, the videos we do, we tell our lives and we tell everything we've done and everything we come from. So that was the content we started doing initially. And I feel like from the jump, people quite connected with it because it felt very organic and it felt like a breath of fresh air to what there was around in the brands. And also, I have to put a couple pieces together to be able to tell how it grew quickly. There was a thing about the creation of content and how we scaled the whole content, which I think has a lot to do with it. There was a thing about the streetwear culture barely existing in Spain and just hitting that right moment in that time where already huge in the United States. I feel like in the north of Europe, it was already quite big, but it hadn't quite hit Spain. So we were at the forefront of when streetwear culture started impacting Spain and being like the first brand of referencing in that culture. And then also, an opportunity the Spanish market had, which I think in the past, the Spanish market had always been very dominated by these huge corporations, which I don't know if you know about the group Inditex, but it's like Zara, Bershka, Massimo Dutti, all the huge Spanish brands. Inditex is one of the biggest fashion groups in the world. It comes from Spain. And it's also a fast fashion industry. So I feel like in Spain, there was a huge gap in the market for like actual real brands with like a real price point because it'd been so dominated by fast fashion that it'd been thought impossible back in the day to create a brand that had a higher pricing, that had a premium brand positioning because everyone in Spain was so used to shop fast fashion and was so used to the fast fashion prices. So there was a couple things, if I had to put in a melting pot, what I think made that scalability so big in the beginning, it was made out of a couple pieces that had to do with it. And also at the same time, the last thing is fashion is a very circular business. When I mean circular is that everything you sell, if you reinvest, you make more money and it becomes like this big snowball effect, you know? If we started with 300 euros, we sold those 25 t-shirts. If we sell those 25 t-shirts, we get probably double or triple the amount of money we had initially. If we reinvested everything and don't take out of the company, that snowball effect just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And me and Alex, for the first, I think, 4 years of the business, had never taken out a single piece of money out of the business. We'd have a salary, of course, because we have to eat from something, but nothing blown out of proportion. And we've reinvested everything and kept it going to be able to make bigger that snowball effect. And it was also the only way to be able to bootstrap a business without investors.
Yeah,
which is to reinvest the money and put your money where your mouth is, really believe the project and know that that is our number one investment. So we're not going to take out any money just because we want like a car or like a watch. We know this is the future and this is our biggest bet and investment.
Nice. Cool. I love the way you laid it out. And I think there's like, for me, 3 clear things also for people watching this. It's like content. Content is key. Timing, that's key as well. So the come up of the Spanish companies and see the gap. And also like the Blue Ocean strategy. I don't know if you knew the book or probably you do. You don't know the book Blue Ocean Strategy?
No idea.
Okay, so you should check it out. It's a book about competition in businesses. So there's a lot of businesses competing in red oceans, which are oceans with a lot of fishes in them, which means there's like a pond and there might be 100 fishes in there, which means there's a lot of fishes trying to eat the food, so there's not a lot left for you. So you either have to be very good, been in the business very long, but it's going to be very competitive. Then you can also look at another ocean, which is the blue ocean, where there are maybe 1 or 2 fish or maybe no fish at all. And if you get in that one, well, there's a lot of food and you can create new markets. And so, for example, Netflix created a blue ocean because everybody was maybe renting like videos at a store or watching at like the cinema. And then they started creating like real-time, at home, on-demand video. And that's a completely new market that got created by Netflix in essence. And I think that's what you guys started doing. There was like a blue ocean of people needing something, but no company really feeding that need. And I think you used it perfectly.
Great example. I had no idea about the book. I'm probably gonna buy it.
Yeah, it's an interesting book.
Read
It's
it.
very good.
It seems interesting, but I think that's exactly it, you know. And I think when we talk about these great ideas and these great business ideas, you also have to be very aware of what a business that has a capacity to be able to grow and scale. At least if you want to create a big business, no? If you have a small business where you don't care how much growth, you just like, say, you have a bakery, you have a local bakery, and you just have that local bakery and don't want to scale it, you just want to make it a family business, of course, that's legit and that's crazy. That's okay, no? But if you wanted out of that bakery to make a bakery that scales all over the world and recreate that in all different cities, you have to approach things in a very different manner.
Yeah.
And you also have to find a product and a place that adapts to those necessities, no? Because I think clothing for us has been such a good business, because clothing at the end of the day is a very huge industry.
Yeah.
Is also an industry that is very accepting of like newcomers and new brands, because like the word fashion itself indicates, is we are always looking for that next trend, that next fashion. So if you have a good idea and have a good proposal, it's probably going to be an easy industry to explode if you have that perfect product for the perfect moment. And it's also an industry with a good margin. If you create a solid brand with a big brand equity, it has a good margin, and a good margin eventually leads to be able to grow a business, because it's more money you get to reinvest in the company and in the growth in the company. You know, I think if you look at a lot of big players in the game and good businesses, they're usually related to having a good margin, because a good margin is what gives you the money to market, what gives you the money to create content, it gives you the money to be able to invest in new productions. Good margin, I would say, is key in a good business. And you'll see that's why probably the biggest bet and the biggest equities in the world are possessed by luxury brands, because luxury brands in clothing have the best margins, of course, by far. And that gives them like such a solid perception and a solid growth. And Hermes has been growing 30% year over year for I don't know how many years, and they literally cap the growth. They don't want to grow more, they don't want to grow less, they just want to grow 30% with their fucking amazing margins. They have a lot of money's pouring out of everywhere. And that's why fashion luxury businesses are some of the best businesses and best bets in the world, and also the hardest businesses to create.
Yeah, but also what I think is very interesting, which I think makes you, to me at least, a unique entrepreneur, is the fact that there's an artist within you. But I think there's a lot of artists who can make like amazing stuff, but they don't like selling their stuff.
Yeah.
To me, I'm pretty creative as well. I wouldn't say as much as you guys. I didn't create a clothing brand, but I like to be creative. The part of being creative, but making it a commercial success, is what makes me able to amplify it, to make it bigger, to really create a company around your creativeness, which makes it have bigger impact. But I think there's a lot of great creatives, which I want to tell to like, please charge more, because if you have the money, you can amplify your voice and have an even bigger impact. And I think you're a great example of somebody doing that very well.
We talked about it before, but I identify myself as, if you had to ask me, what do you do? What is your job? I identify with the word entrepreneur very much. I identify with the word creative. And I think those are my two key components, no? Because I think it doesn't matter if I was a creative genius, which I'm not saying I am, by far not. But if I was a creative genius, but I had no type of perspective on what it is a good business, how to create a good business, I think that creativity would be lost, and it wouldn't have a solid output. You know, I think a good creative, or at least in my perspective, a good strategy creative has to know about the business and has to understand the business, because in order to create the best creative strategy for that business, you need to understand it first. Yeah. So they go very hand in hand, you know. I don't think you can separate it at all. And you'll see in certain cases there will be like a full creative part of the brand and a whole business part of the brand, no? And maybe there's like two partners or yeah, it's very separated. In my case, I think both me and Alex, we're both very creative and we're both very business savvy. The way the company has evolved, we've separated parts, and he's become the CEO of the company and I've become the creative director. but I don't think we're like a typical creative director and a typical CEO in the way where I know a lot about business and I'm very interested on it, and he also knows a lot about the creative aspect and is very interested in on it, and it's cool because we can kind of check on each other up and like still like I don't know, be very very tough on each other, but in the most loving way possible when I say that. No, like I think he always knows we have meetings twice a week, and also we have like a meeting that we call like the Wizard Congress, which we do every 2 months or every 3 months to check up on the broader scale of the company and the longer vision. And we're tough on each other, you know. We ask each other about like, yo, how's this going? How's this doing? We challenge ourselves, and that's why and we're able to do that because we both know about the other sides of the business where we're not involved in the day-to-day. So I think it's very important to have that mix properly and have very clear that to create a good business, both sides are equally as important, and have that know who's going to be in charge of which. Or maybe there's cases where one person is in charge of both and has like half of his brain is creative, half of his brain is business, and that also works out.
Yeah. Great. Interesting to see how that develops as well, because you start after 2 weeks of knowing each other, and apparently the fit was very well. I'm very interested to hear a bit more about the growth. As you said, there was a very rapid growth over the past 4 or 5 years. What were the biggest stepping stones in the growth? So the first year, it's about content, it's about timing, it's about finding that blue ocean. But then after, there's also still a lot of things that can go wrong. But you guys just started doubling the digits and going bigger and bigger. So what were the big stepping stones into the huge growth?
There's many, no, but I'd definitely say like the biggest key component is the team, for sure. I think creating a team is extremely complicated. At the end of the day, being able to create a collective and a group of people that have a same mission, are very different, but at the same time can interact with each other, respect each other, and admire each other. Wow, there's so many different things that go into creating that collective and that team that makes it so complex and so beautiful at the same time. I think for us, it's definitely been the biggest challenge. Like, just think about it, no? I'm like, first time I start creating a business, I'm like 19, 20. You know, I barely know who the fuck I am in this world, yet alone being able to instruct other people to create better versions of themselves, you know? So I'm already in a very weird position where I'm like telling people what to do without knowing what the fuck I'm doing, first of all. And if you scale that to the moment where I'm like starting hiring like people that are like 40 and 50, they've been working for the past 20 years in this huge like fashion businesses that are way more experienced than me, way more intelligent, way more capable. And I'm having to like do business interviews with them, hiring them, negotiate with them their salary. Like these things that are so alien to me at the time, they just put me in a tough position, you know, because at the end of the day, how am I, like this 19-year-old kid that barely knows anything about life, gonna instruct and be the boss of like this 50-year-old men that like have a child and are very clear about what they want in their life and how they want it to be. Literally could be my dad. So it's so hard as a young entrepreneur to get that respect and also get that validation from them. And what I always say for us, how I got that admiration or how I got that respect from these older people that were way more experienced than me was being humble, having that that learner's mentality. You know, I think that humility of I am no one, I know nothing, so please come here. I want to learn from you and I want to learn from everything you've done. That was key. Also knowing that in order to be able to be the best, to be able to get the respect, was I was going to be the best version of myself. I was going to be resilient. I was going to be the first person in the office, the first one to leave the office. I was going to show them that even though I didn't know and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do or how I wanted to get it done, I was going to learn, I was going to listen, and I was always going to be respectful and very hardworking to be able to get the admiration I felt like I would need as a boss. Yeah. You know, so I think that kind of worked out.
Lead by example.
Many fuck ups, many things where I should have gone right and I went left.
Can you tell me about like the biggest fuck up in the moment, which looking back was probably like the most valuable situation or something?
Look, I'll tell you a funny one, okay? Basically, to put you in context, we're 2 years in the brand, I think, at this point, and it gets to a point where it's like that year where we're actually going to start making like a decent amount of money as far as company value and growth. And we're like, oh shit, this is getting serious. Like, we need to make this like a company profile. We need to get like a bank account. Like, up until that point, it had all been very, I'm not going to say things publicly because maybe the government's watching, but it was very two kids creating a thing, you know, that wasn't a business. So we were like, okay, we need to make this official. We need to make this like a real business. So first of all, on that list of making this a real business, we YouTubed like everything we did back in the day. We would go on YouTube and we're like, okay, how do we create a bank account? How do we make an SL, which is like a limited company? What do we have to do? How much money do we need to invest? Blah, blah, blah. All these things that are quite boring, but very important to know. And at that point, we realized that we have to trademark our name and we have to make that official. Okay, sounds cool. What's the problem? At that time, we had a name that went by New Polynesia, which, as you might know, it is not our official name now. And that was the name we were going by. And we're like, okay, let's register the name. We send it to the register man. We wanted to get registered in the WIPO, which is the European Association for Brand Trademarks. And after a couple of months, we get back the news that that name is not registerable. You can't register the name New Polynesia because there's already a clothing brand that is named Polynesia. So it's like if you try to register New Lacoste, it doesn't work. No. Lacoste already exists. So they're like, no, you can't register his name. And at that point, me and Alex are like, what the fuck? Like, now it seems stupid, no? But at that time, it's like, we've been building this brand for 2 years. Everyone knows us as New Polynesia, the brand, blah, blah, blah. You're telling me now we don't have a name and we can't physically legal register that name? Whoa, drama exposed. So we're like, what the fuck do we do? Okay, we, after having like 3 very dark days of like, oh, this is all over. Okay, I guess we tried, but we weren't good enough. We fucked up. We don't have a good name. We should have researched this previously. After some dark loops of hell,
of course,
let's say, we get back on board and we're like, okay, what do we do? So the common sense we used in this moment to be able to still have a cool brand was, okay, if we have the name New Polynesia, we were already using in t-shirts quite a lot the letter N and the letter P, so the NP. And we're like, okay, the NP we can keep. What if we keep the NP for a little bit while we try to register the new logo, and we find a word this starts with N and this starts with P that we can put together. So from that point on, we literally went to like the English dictionary, the Spanish dictionary, the French dictionary, the Italian dictionary, the languages we liked most at that point. And we're like, okay, let's find words with N, words with P, and Alex, you put a bunch together and I'll put a bunch together. We'll sit back down in like 5 days and see what we have. Okay, let's see what we got. So we literally did that exercise, found like a bunch of crazy different names. There was very weird variations. I remember one of them was like MP6, and there was like Nude Project. There was very random names, and upon that huge list of random names, there's a photo where if you want it for the podcast, I can send it to you.
Yeah, for sure. That would be
Nude Project was there. So we're like, wow. At the beginning, now it seems so obvious, no? But in the beginning, it was like weird. It's like, bro, you're telling me we literally make clothes and we're gonna call it Nude Project? Like, there's a certain irony, which is weird. Are people in Spain gonna be okay with wearing nude in their chest? You know, it feels like very random. It feels, we're like, this is like quite like almost sexual. Or is it gonna be too crazy for people to wear in their clothes? We're super scared. But the other alternatives were so bad that we're like, fuck it, we have to go with this one, okay? We have no more time. I don't want to time waste. Let's try to register this legally and see if it works. So think about it. We all have all that fucking mental breakdown that I summed it up quite quickly, but it was around 3 weeks of back and forth, talking to my parents, asking friends what they thought, blah. Those are also a couple 3 weeks where we stopped the business because we don't want to keep selling clothes with New Polynesia. If that's not going to be our name, we're going to be creating like a false message to our society. And from there on, after having created Nude Project and got the name Nude Project that we liked, we have to wait 6 months for the register to get approved because the WIPO works that way. It takes quite a bit of time to get it fully registered. So we have like this 6 to 7 month gap of time where we literally feel like we don't have a name. We already had like 50,000 followers, so it was a big following for the day. And we didn't have a name. We didn't communicate anything. We didn't do any drops. So we like literally almost like freezed in time for like 5-6 months while we were developing and designing the new collections. Change our Instagram address to like NP, just in case to have that, and people not call us, so people wouldn't call us New Polynesia for much longer. And then eventually we got like the good news, the Nude Project been approved, and we did like this whole campaign and this whole shoot of like how we transforming names and how the company was evolving. We tried to make it up to make it seem like it was something cool and something like forward, you know, it was the future of the brand. But at the same time, at that time, we were scared shitless of like, yo, if this doesn't work out like this, we're done.
What was the first Nude Project launch like?
The first Nude Project launch, it was this whole campaign of like, I remember, you have to put maybe this video into it and it'd be cool to put this video. It's like, we got like this. Actually, I filmed it with Kako, which he's here with us today. And it was like this whole campaign of like news reporters. It was like news reporters. No, it was like that was the announcement of changing name, right? Yeah. So it was like the news reporter saying New Polynesia is now officially a New Project. Blah blah blah. And we made like this edit of like burning the past. Metaphorically, it kind of worked. I don't know. Now you look back at it and you're like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck were we doing? Okay. But back in the day, it was like a message. It was a statement. And actually, to our surprise, to be honest, people resonated with the name Nude Project quite quick on. And it wasn't like the drama we anticipated it was going to be, you know?
As
like,
it usually
people
is.
liked Nude Project. It felt fresh. It felt new. I love the name now. I think looking back, it's been probably one of the best decisions we could have ever made because New Polynesia doesn't have a ring to it. I don't like the name. And Nude Project is like special. It's like magical. You see it on the street and you're like, what the fuck is this?
It
like,
jumps out to you.
Is it like a weird collective? Is it a nudist community? Like what the like, you don't know what it is, but it definitely like adds a bit of mystique and magic to the brand. And it gives power to that word of mouth, you know? And there's a whole irony to the name of like, yo, we're a clothing company. We sell clothes and we're called Nude. Like it doesn't make sense, but it kind of does. So looking back and based on the question you said before, I think that was one of the most pivotal moments to like, we at that point in time, if I look back, I thought it was the biggest drama. I thought it was the biggest possible fuck up that could ruin our business and the idea of being able to live from this brand. And now you look back and you're like, shit. Thank God that happened. New Polynesia was a trash name. I think this is like a part of magic, a part of luck that existed where we were able to pivot names at that point dramatically and create a name that I think to this day resonates with so many people and is a further extension of the message we try to invoke in people, you know, which at the end of the day, Nude Project for me, it has 2 words to it. No, it's a 2-word naming. Nude for me means freedom. It means like when you're born, we're all nude. No, like it's the maximum freedom. Like I like to sleep naked. I feel free. Like that's what it represents for me. The word nude represents freedom, and the word project represents something that is never ending. A project that does never finish. There's always a final thing. There's always a change. There's always something more to add. And the mission of the company is to inspire people to pursue their passion. So I feel like the name really represents the mission of the brand, which is when you're inspiring people to pursue their passion, when you're able to find your passion or do it, end up pursuing it, there's never a day where it's going to end. You know, there can be numerical goals or there can be things you want to reach to that will end eventually, like getting a magazine, a Forbes cover. You know, that is something that once you get it, it's done.
Yeah.
But I think the truly beautiful thing about a passion is that you're never going to be able to say you finished your passion. You inspire too many people. Or that you're too happy and living from your brand. No, like the passion, it evolves, it becomes more complex, it becomes you get more profound in your passion, but it never ends. And I think that's the beauty of it, and I think that's the beauty also of our naming. That for me, passion means freedom, and project means and project is that it never ends. You know, so Nude Project, it kind of englobes the whole mission of the company and why we do this.
Quick question. Are you enjoying the podcast so far? Because I have great news. As you can hear from the conversation I've had with Bruno, reading books has been crucial for Bruno to get to the success he is at today. And one of his most inspirational books is Shoe Dog, the incredible story about how Nike was built from the ground up. It taught Bruno everything about perseverance, creativity, thinking bigger, and just taking risks. And I've got something cool for you. Thanks to our collaboration with Storytel, you can listen to Bruno's recommendations for free. You can get your 30-day access through the links in the description. And in addition to Bruno's book, Storytel has more than 1 million stories, such as The 4-Hour Workweek, Start With Why, and The Lean Startup. So in those 30 days, you can easily listen up to 5 or 6 books, which is all free knowledge. So click in the link in the description and try Storytel for 30 days for free. I love that. Especially for the reason that it's like what seemed to be the biggest drama in the company at that time actually fed like a whole vision, mission, and everything that you stand for now. And I think it's very interesting for people listening to this as well or watching, like, don't overstress naming your company or anything, because as you said, Nude Project seemed a bit silly maybe at first, but it started to become something out of the value and meaning you gave to it by building the company. And I think that's the most important. Like, did I pick the right name for my company? That depends on whether you build the company for the name to be valuable and mean something. And that's very cool. And I think you guys are a testament to that.
Completely. I can't resonate more with what you just said. People think these Nikes, Apples, these companies, oh my God, their logo is so amazing. Their naming is perfect. Their mission is perfectly thought out. And they think that these people, these Steve Jobs, Phil Knight, had been in like a lab thinking and like working towards that idea and like for days on straight. And it's not the truth. You know, the reality is when you get to talk to, well, I haven't gotten the opportunity to talk to them, but when you read their books, see their documentaries, all the content I've been able to see from them, is that these things kind of almost evolved naturally. They didn't really know. Like in the case of Phil Knight, no, he has the name Nike, which is beautiful, the swoosh, which is the best logo possibly in the world, and then the just do it, no, which is one of the best mottos there is in the world. Wow. There's no way this is not going to work out, no? But the funniest thing is the word Nike, when they first brought it out in like a team meeting, I think they were doing a brainstorm because they were changing from the sporting goods, no? Or they had a different naming of the company. It was like a very descriptive name of like where they were from, like a Boston running company, something on the like thing of sporting goods. So, and they changed the Nike, and Phil Knight was just like, oh, like sounds okay. No, like there wasn't any super thought over process. Then the swoosh, which everyone's like, oh my God, this represents the dynamism of like the running, the fast, the speed, and there's so many metaphors in this logo. And the realistic thing was that Phil Knight went to like a student in a university and told her, I need a logo. Can you do anything? And this girl proposed this logo. It was the first thing he saw. In the beginning, he was like, I don't know if this is it. Eventually, he liked it. He ended up picking it. And then Just Do It was also a derivation of like all the work they'd been doing to that point. And maybe that didn't have more of a thought process behind it. But all this to say that don't overthink so much. Don't paralysis for analysis, no?
Yeah, man.
Don't paralyze overthinking, analyzing, questioning. Sometimes just go with it, say yes, try it out, and you'll see. Nothing is permanent really in this life. You can always come back. There's things that are harder to come back from. There's things that are easier, but I really believe nothing is permanent and you can always change and adapt.
Yeah. That's also a thing. Like, I love all the information that you can find online about entrepreneurship and the lessons. But I also think there's like some messages being thrown around there that for starting entrepreneurs especially are almost like poison into your vein, which just, it won't help you. Like, strive for perfection. which is, I think, the worst thing you can do as a starting entrepreneur, because you don't even know what perfection looks like. You could strive for perfection in your designs or in your name or your slogan. You've never made a slogan before.
Yeah.
You don't know what perfection looks like. Just because you know the slogan of Nike doesn't mean you understand what making a great slogan is.
Yeah.
It's better to just pick something, start working. And as you see with you guys as well, you were 2 years deep building a company that was maybe bigger than you ever thought it would be. And then you needed to change the name. You thought it was the end,
Yeah.
but it was actually the start.
Completely.
And that's very interesting.
Completely. Don't get too attached. Try things out. I think especially it's a great message for the people starting, because I think I always talk about my role, and I think my role has evolved a lot. In the beginning, my role was to say yes to everything and to say, Alex comes up to me, he's like, I want to start a bikini. I'm like, yes. Hey, there's this opportunity about starting a podcast. Yes. 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 In the beginning, it was all yeses, and I think that's the best thing you can do as a young entrepreneur. Yes, 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 yes. To find out opportunities, talk to people, get to know people, try things out. I think it's very important. And I think to the point I'm at now, it's become funny and contradictory in a way where it's like now the more I say no, I think the better.
Yeah.
Like the more, and let me elaborate on it. It's like now it's, you look at my Google Calendar and there's literally like today I got it blocked out because I'm filming this, but tomorrow there's literally not even a space where I can like breathe almost, So it's like, I have to start saying no to things, because if not, I've always been I want to do everything, try everything out. And that's what got us here. But now from here to that next chapter in life is to say no, to say there's huge business opportunities that come to us about starting a pizza place, starting this. And it's like now every day more I have to say no. Do you want to come to the trip? No. Do you want to do this podcast? No. Do you want to do this, that? No. Because it's what it's going to help us positioning the brand where we want to do. And also the little time I have left in life, apart from when I'm like in the office working, I need to dedicate to the things that are going to bring more output with less input as possible.
This is the exact same thing we just went through, I think, like the last 12 months. And it was the exact conversation I had with Koen, my co-host. Like, we went from chasing yeses to giving no's. But the unfortunate thing is that when you're in the transition, you're still chasing yeses, but you're getting a lot of opportunities. So you start going every direction. And in the end, that starts like hurting the business, or at least the growth starts slowing down, because the growth is, for us at least, in focusing on one thing and putting all your time and effort into that one thing and making it the biggest thing. So it's very interesting to hear you say the same thing, and I couldn't agree more. What way did you and your business partner, Alex, develop over the last 4 or 5 years, and then mainly in business? Because of course, when you start, you understand, well, there's money to be spent to do some marketing, and then you need to make some profit because otherwise the business won't grow, and et cetera, et cetera. But now, as you said, you're like hiring people, building teams, setting up stores all over the world. How did you like develop these skills? Because these are not skills that you're learned in a book or in school.
I'm gonna respond. I'm just gonna blow my
nose. No worries.
We cut
Getting used to the Dutch weather.
Oh my god, it is cold here, man.
Yeah.
I still have my sweater and my jacket.
Yeah, we'll cut it out. No worries.
Thank you. Okay. Perfect. So, to the question, I think there's many things. I think going back to what I said initially in the podcast, I think that that Padawan mentality, that wanting to learn, that natural curiosity for life is the key. Like, I think any person you meet that is certain successful in different aspects of life, if I had to pinpoint one thing they all had in common, was curiosity. Like, you'll meet like I've met like these amazing business people, 60 years in the game, billionaires, plenty money, plenty resources, met all the famous people, blah, blah, blah. and you're able to sit down in a conversation with them, talk to them, and they'll be asking you questions. In this case, me. I'm like, yo, why are you asking me questions when you've done it all? Like, what do you have to learn from me? You know, and I think that's that innate curiosity that these people have, where it's like, you're never going to learn anything by speaking. And that's something you'll figure it out eventually. We all love to speak because we love to talk about our life, but you're always going to learn when you're listening. You're never going to learn when you're speaking. And that's facts. So even just that, the people you see there sometimes are in very high positions are people that are huge listeners, very good listeners, and they speak when they need to. Or they speak just the necessary amount to be able to pivot a conversation and to be able to guide someone through, but not excessively. So I think to the question is being able to maintain that natural curiosity, which is nothing we created fictionally, it just came innately out of me and Alex, was what has made us learn and grow into the people we are now, which are completely flawed. Like I hate sitting in a position or being in an interview or whatever and being like, oh, now that you all... Yesterday, literally, I was like a couple weeks ago in an event in the Forbes. We were just on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and we did a public speaking. Thank you, sir. And we did like a public speaking, and one of the questions was, well, you guys, now that you have everything so figured out and everything, I'm like, if it seems like I have it all figured out, I'm a very good liar, you know, because it's not the truth. I'm far from having it figured out. I'm more lost maybe now than I was 5 years ago. I have no fucking idea what we're doing. I feel the imposter syndrome now more than ever because it's just everything's blown so out of proportion. There's 150 people that work for me. We have 10 stores across the world. The responsibilities are so much more. There's so much more to lose now than there was way back then. So it's, if anything, that imposter syndrome is accentuated, and I feel it more than ever now because I still don't know. I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And this is truth, and it's not for me to make me seem humble and shit. Like yesterday we were posting a video, which is the next video of our next campaign. And we stayed up till 9:30. We were supposed to post it at 9. We posted it at 9:30 because we stayed up until 9:30 editing the video. Just based on that insecurity of like, yo. And like, I asked Coco, he's here with me. We're editing the video together. He was editing it. And I asked him like 30 minutes before posting the video. I'm like, dude, is this video cool? Like, I don't know if like this is too random. Like, are people gonna relate to like 30 minutes before posting the video? No, that I think people from the outside, people maybe see Nude Project and like, oh my God, they probably prepare this. They probably have like a fucking massive team, blah, blah, blah. It was literally me and him talking. I'm like, yo, is this cool? Like adjusting the color last minute. So that insecurity, if anything, it's gotten bigger because the project's so much bigger. There's so many more eyeballs watching. There's so many people more judging that it's like I feel even more insecure than I did back then because I'm like, fuck, I still don't know what I'm doing. And now a lot of people are seeing it. So, wow.
Do you think you'll ever arrive at the I know what I'm doing phase?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
And I think that's the beauty. No, like I think the true beauty of it is I heard in a speech of Drake, I'm a big Drake fan. Even though the whole Kendrick thing has happened.
It was a bad summer for you.
Yeah, it was a tough summer, but I'm still there. I'm still there. There was a Drake speech that I love so much that was, he was like recognizing after like a 10-year Billboard nomination they gave him or something. It was like this huge award. And he was just saying, which was almost sad to a point, he's like, I've always been so insecure on my craft that what that generated was me working more, going further, questioning things 1,000 times over, never stopping, always wanting to learn more because I was so insecure about my craft that I felt like if I didn't do that, I was never going to be able to evolve. And that still continues to this day.
Yeah.
So I was like, I heard that and that resonated so much to me because I'm like, fuck, if Drake is insecure, like, you know, if Drake doesn't have it figured out, if he doesn't have it figured out, the #1 artist in music, he's broke all the records, he's all the things, and he's saying that he still doesn't have it figured out, how the fuck am I, Bruno, 24 years old from Spain, gonna have it figured out? It's impossible.
Yeah.
So it just gave me a lot of peace and a lot of acceptance of like, oh, it's okay to not have it figured out. No one has it figured out. Literally, no one knows what the fuck they're doing. We're all here acting like we know what we're doing, but there's literally 2 cameras. You've thought about some things you wanted to ask me that you think could be interesting. I thought about how I wanted to respond in the best way possible, but we don't know what the fuck we're doing. No one cares, and that's cool because it gives us peace of like, dude, chill. You know, like, don't take it too seriously. Have fun. Perspective. Have fun because it's not as serious as you make it out to be. Our parents don't know what the fuck they're doing. They had us, and when they had us, they eventually thought like, oh, maybe I can tell him this and I can feed him this, and he'll be like, good job. But they didn't know what they were doing. So it's like no one that's created anything amazing was any smarter than you are. And they didn't know anything that you didn't know. So get off your fucking ass. Go do what you like. Pursue whatever the fuck you're thinking about doing, because no one before you knew what they were doing. So there's no reason for you to know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
No?
Beautiful. Yeah, no, it's I mean, it's good to share these types of things as well, because for me, a big part of the insecurity when I started entrepreneurship was feeling that everybody had it figured out.
Yeah.
And thinking I do not have it figured out.
Completely.
So I'm probably gonna fail because it seems to me like I'm the only one competing that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing around here. And then to find out everybody is just fucking around. And as you said before in the podcast, the book, Shoe Dog from Phil Knight, it was the biggest eye-opener for me to really understand, like, even this guy who created the biggest, one of the biggest brands in the world, didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
Funny, because for me it was exactly the same.
And that's the exact reason why I recommend every entrepreneur to read the book or to listen to the book or check it out, because
I would say Shoe Dog is the one, man. And I think that I've had to pinpoint one reference that really made Nude Project what it is today, and because it gave us the push and the power to start, it was that book.
Yeah.
It's so beautifully narrated. It's so well spoken. It's so real. Like, I think that book, cheers and props to Phil Knight for Nike, but I'd even cheers him more for that book, because I think it's contributed so much value at such a cheap price to society, which is insane. Like, he's so truthful and it's so cool because it's written from his perspective. So he's telling you about all those moments where he's creating Nike, where he literally does not know. He doesn't even know how to manage a person. He's like shy. He's like an introvert. He doesn't know how to express himself well. He's super normal. He like runs in the morning, talks to his dad at night, but all between that, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's trying things out. He gets in this huge like legal problems. It's so cool because it humanizes Phil so much. It makes him feel like such a normal person. And up until that point, for me, I'd always thought that the people that created huge things or did amazing things were super special and super like genius-like people. And he was like the first person I'd seen that was like super normal.
Yeah.
Extremely normal.
For sure.
And that gave me the first push, and I can imagine you too, to be like, yo, if this guy's so normal, but if such a normal guy has created something so extraordinary, why am I not going to be the person that creates the next extraordinary thing? Because I'm super normal, so in that we can relate.
And it made me relax into the current stage I'm at, because it's all right. Like, I'm in the stage where he was at one point, and I'm doing the right thing, because that's the thing I wonder about a lot. Am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right decisions? And then you read the book and you're like, it doesn't even really matter. Just keep trying, keep building, keep finding, and you'll open your eyes 10 years later and be like, well, look at what we've built.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear that you got the same thing from the book, because I think a lot of people read it, but I also speak to a lot of entrepreneurs that haven't read it yet. So
no way.
For everybody seeing this or listening to this.
In my reality, it's like I feel like everyone's read Shoe Dog, you know? It's like how can you have not read Shoe Dog?
Let's test. Did you guys read the book?
Have you guys read the fucking book?
He hasn't. So that's 50%.
Nude Project, we gave it to all our team as a Christmas present.
Nice. And he read it as well, so he can stay.
That's funny. No, like it's so funny you're saying this, because for me it's such a power, that book.
Yeah, for sure. So I have to ask about this as well, and it's a little bit less maybe about the business, but it's a personal interest for me because you built one of the biggest Spanish podcasts in the world even. How did the podcast come about? Because you're a clothing brand, not a podcast studio.
Let's talk about a podcast in the podcast. I love it. Let's do
Podcast inception.
it. Look, the podcast, I talked back, and I like to refer to things I've said in the past because I think it makes this conversation more coherent. I've talked a lot about the whole part of showing the process, and I've talked a lot about genuine curiosity. And I think the podcast is like a perfect mixing pot for both of those. Like, I think the genuine curiosity of being able to learn and we're like, what we said back in the day, which was like, oh, everything we've learned or most of the things we've learned are either from books or from podcasts. I don't feel like I'm prepared to write a book right now because I think, wow, that's a big mission. But who says that we can't set up 2 cameras in our office and start talking about the day-to-day of our business and show the process of how we're creating this business, bring along the people in the journey, have them connect more with the brand and us being able to share a reality. And that's how it started. It started off with like, yo, let's film one. Let's see how the fuck this goes. I remember we filmed it, I think maybe for like 6-7 hours because me and Alex were so bad at communicating and so bad at talking that we just had to do 1,000 cuts on the video. And it's not that we were so bad at communicating, which also was part of it, is that it was so weird, me and him sitting in like a podcast situation, and I literally know everything about his life and he knows everything about mine because we work together, live together. There's few things that we don't do together still at that point and now. So it was very awkward just like sitting down with like a microphone in front of cameras and being like, yo, so Alex, how was your day? Because I'm like, bro, what the fuck? I know everything. Like, no. So that was the funny thing. That's why we spent so long filming in the first place. But eventually evolved to like a thing where it's like, we'd either do podcasts talking about the brand and the process, or we started inviting like friends of us and of the brand that were like liked and admired and had contact with them. And we're like, yo, could you like tell your story in our podcast? And our idea and the mission behind this brand is to inspire people to pursue their passion. So what better way to inspire than being able to pick the brains of the people that are most live of their passion, the people that have reached the pinnacle that I couldn't even dream of, and being able to pick their brain, ask them the correct questions and ask them the right things that came out of this natural, genuine curiosity, and being able not to only enrich myself with that content and being able to learn so much, but to also be able to document and scale that genuine curiosity that is coming out of me and Alex to like a potential audience that we didn't even know if it existed or it didn't. And you see now becoming like the second most listened to podcast in Spain, that there was this that the market didn't know they wanted, because I don't think anyone was asking for a podcast between 2 kids that had no fucking idea what they were doing, interviewing other people. But eventually when the product was out, there was a lot of more people that resonated with it. And especially we have like this filter of like the main conductor of the whole podcast is inspiring people to pursue their passion, which is the mission of the brand. That's why it makes sense. No? Like if you look from the outside, the first question you did is like, why the fuck does a clothing brand have a podcast? I don't know. Initially, I had no idea. If you'd asked me when we started the podcast, I was like, I don't know.
Because
I just like it. I just like it. It seems cool. And now looking back, it's like, no, this podcast makes 1,000% sense. It makes 2,000% sense because it's literally one of the most best expressions of the mission that our brand has to date, because we're able to talk to the most successful people, talking about people that are able to live off their passion, not about money or about fame. That's for what success is to me, how much you can live off your passion. And we're having the most successful people in the world, potentially, talking to us being able to ask them the questions we want, and we're able to document that, and that create a bigger brand equity for the brand. Whoa. So now it makes like a lot of sense. And even when I say it, I feel like it makes a lot of sense. But back in the day it was like, oh, we like podcasts. We've learned so much. How about we start doing a podcast about our life and everything we're doing? And if it helps one person, cool. If it helps 2 people, cool. If it helps 400 people, even better. If it goes to more of that. But we had no expectation. I feel like a lot of youth is also very damaged by expectation. No, expectation is one of the worst things in the world, because it generates like a thought behind it, like, oh, if I do this, this should happen, or that should happen, or if I start this company, I'm gonna put a goal of selling 1 million the first year. And it's very sad because when you don't reach that goal, it's a very demotivating feeling.
Yeah.
To the post side, which was, I feel like, what we had when we created the podcast, we didn't have an expectation of the amount of views we wanted to have. When I created the vlog, I didn't have an expectation of the views I wanted to have. When we created the company, we didn't have a business plan. We didn't have an idea of how much we wanted to make a year. So it's like, I remember back in the day, it was like, okay, we would get zero. There would be many days where we get 0 orders a day. So I remember our goal for such a long time was like, dude, the day we end up getting 1 order a day, wow, that's going to be crazy. That's going to be fucking crazy. It felt so distant for such a long time, but eventually then we got to a point where it was like, we're getting 1 order a day, every day. And Alex, I remember he had like on his student housing, he had like on this big billboard thing he had like a 100 note written to the there. And I remember going in one day and asking, oh, what is that 100? And he's like, I'm manifesting that one day we're going to get 100 orders in a day. Like, you're crazy. 100 orders in a day? We're barely getting an order a day. How the fuck are we going to make that happen? He's like, no, I'm manifesting. Don't worry. Like, no expectation. We don't have that. But I think one day we're going to be able to get it. And then eventually, of course, we got 100 orders a day. But it was cool not having a big expectation because every milestone we accomplished, we felt like a huge success. Yeah. Even though now, looking back, an order a day maybe is nothing or almost nothing to the scale the company's at today. At that time, that was game changing.
Yeah. How do you keep like a balance between starting things out of a passion and not having expectations, and then having 100 people company, people that need to feed their kids, having to make a certain amount of revenue because, well, people are dependent on you? Because I can understand that, of course, starting out, going from passion is the one thing that matters and it's the thing that feeds everything. But it can also become reckless if you have a big company and people are dependent on you. So how do you keep a balance between those two?
Great question. I don't know. No, like when I say I don't know is that I don't want to sit here and lie. It's not my intention today when I come here.
Thank you.
I'm figuring it out. I think that middle balance you figure out every day. Like there's certain things in life where it's like when we talk about this yin yang, this balance, which you work on daily. There's never, I don't have it fully figured out. You just kind of have to try to regulate it. I try to regulate it. And in this case, with the thing you're talking about is I don't want to have a huge responsibility with any new project I start. Like, let's put the vlog as an example. I started vlogging like a month ago.
Yeah.
And I knew there was a lot to lose because I feel like any project I start now, if it doesn't have an immediate attraction of the public, it can be looked at as a failure. And there's no reason why I should start vlogging. Like, no one's expecting me to start vlogging.
Well, there's one. Daniel is
the one that pushed me to do it. But I mean, like, the world is not waiting for a Bruno vlog. So it's like, there's less risk if I don't start vlogging. But what if?
Yeah.
No, that's always the question. What if I do? Yeah. And what if I try it out? And it excites me. So fuck the result. Let's go back to why we're doing this. We're doing this to inspire people to pursue their passion. If we put the money where our mouth is, and that's the real mission of the brand, you're going to start this vlog. Yeah. Because this vlog is going to bring so much value to the people that, even if it's 2, 3, 4, or 5 people that are watching, if you're able to change 5 people's life in this world, wow, you've done a lot.
For sure.
So that's why when we always go back to the mission, that's why it's so important for a business to have a very clear mission and a very clear purpose. If every question you make and every decision you make in your business has coherence with the business mission, you're going to be on the right path. Yeah. That's something you have to ask yourself every day. It's like everything I do, even this podcast, is this aligned with the vision I have for my business? Yeah. In this case, it would be, because I'm in a new country. I'm in Holland, Netherlands. And I'm talking with you guys, which you guys are huge references in your country and your culture as far as the business and as far as inspiration of people to start doing what they want. And I'm talking about my journey to a new audience that maybe doesn't even know me, in a place where I want my message to be heard, which is the Netherlands, because we're eventually going to open a store here too. And I think culturally we're very alike. So this makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy and very at peace filming here with you. You doing amazing questions and me being able to share the little wisdom I've been able to gather over these past 5.5 years. And hopefully being able to inspire, even if it's one Holland person, two, I'm saying Holland people, sorry, I'm the disaster.
Holland
Dutch.
persons.
If it's one Dutch person, 2 Dutch people, 3 Dutch people, 4 Dutch people, 5,
for sure.
I'll be happy, and I'll be super happy.
Yeah, that's cool. It's hard sometimes also either, I think, because, for example, in collections, because of course starting a vlog is one thing, but that's not your main business. But like in collections, I can see, I've noticed this, I've spoken to quite a lot of people that own clothing brands. And sometimes the owner is further ahead in their fashion and everything they want to do than their customers are.
Yeah.
So you can start making all these pieces that are very out there, but people aren't going to want to buy it because they're not ready yet.
Yeah.
How do you balance those things? Maybe you don't have to balance those things because you're spot on with what you like and what the customers like.
No. Very difficult. Once again, anything on any balanced road we're talking about is always very difficult. Like between how much do you believe in yourself versus you wanting to be humble, you wanting to make money, but at the same time wanting to have a cool brand. There's always these pushes and pull. No, and our job as a founder maybe or a creative director is for me to keep that balance in the best way possible. In the case you were saying now, which you were asking about how to bring the clothes to the people, no, in a sense. I think it's quite complicated, but we have it quite we've brought it down to like more of like a mathematical thing, you know? Fashion is all about creativity, but the fashion industry is mixing creativity with numbers, no? Because you can be called an artist as a fashion designer, but at the same time you're a commercial artist, no? You have to sell clothes to live. And to sustain a structure of 150 people, you have to care about the numbers. You can't just say like, I don't give a fuck about the numbers, I'm just doing the art. No, you have to care.
Mm-hmm.
So we've brought it down to a quite numeric way, which is, we call it the product matrix, okay? And the product matrix is a pyramid. It's very simple to see, and it's very, very simple. And in that product matrix, we have a category we call fantasy, which is the smallest part on the top. We have a category we call icons, and then we have the basics, which is the bottom layer. The basics should amount for the mass, the icons should amount for the middle ground, and the fantasy for the top 5%. This applies to clothes and to customers. For example, get me as an example. I'm wearing this leather jacket that has like a crazy faded thing, then it has an all over print all over the jacket. It has the detail on the inside. It's like a crazy piece. No, maybe it's a standout piece you wouldn't wear every day to work. You might not even want to wear it because it's too out there, you know, it's too crazy. It's like, I'm not Justin Bieber, you know, I don't know if I could be wearing these things. No, it's like thoughts people might be having when they're watching. So this is what we consider the fantasy, the top 5%. This is for the pioneers of the culture, all the artists, all those people that are like super out there, super crazy, and that want to make a huge statement and a splash. But of course, that is not the main source of revenue by far, no? Then we have the icons. If I talk icon, it's like I think like the everyday person can wear an icon, but he has to feel certainly special by wearing that garment. So maybe even the sweater I'm wearing can fall to that category where it's a normal sweater. The fit is a bit oversized, so it's a bit special. But at the same time, I feel like maybe you could wear the sweater, no? Mm-hmm. You're more conventional. I like to dress well, but if you're feeling a bit crazy one day, a little bit spicy, or you're going out on a Friday night, you could put this and not feel alien or weird. You could feel okay. That's icons, which is the main source of revenue for the company nowadays. And that's where a lot of the hoodies and the t-shirts come from, no? And then there's the basics section, which right now I'm trying to find an example from wearing a basic. Because these pants aren't basics. No. What t-shirt am I wearing? No, not a basic. Okay, I'm not wearing anything of the basic family right now. Sorry. I would like to show an example. But a basics, for example, a t-shirt. We have various different lines of basic, but a t-shirt with a small logo here. It just says Nude Project, and it's like a black t-shirt with like a standard fit, which potentially anyone in the world could buy that t-shirt. You know, anyone that resonates with the message of the brand can buy that. It can be my dad, it can be my cousin, it can be someone that doesn't care about fashion. It's just you buy that t-shirt because you resonate with the message the brand has, but it's the starting price point of the company, and it's also not very out there, very crazy. You can wear it on a day to day. You just, what you represent with that t-shirt is that when you see the small logo of Nude Project, instead of Lacoste or instead of Ralph Lauren, no, every clothing brand has their own basics. You put that t-shirt on because you like the message of the brand, not because the t-shirt is crazy or super, yet alone stand out, different from the rest. But when you put it on, you're like, I like a black t-shirt. I like feeling elegant. I like feeling classy. But at the same time, I show you that I resonate with the values of this company, that his mission is to inspire the people, blah, 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 whatever they want to say, or to how profound they've connected with the message of the brand. So I'm sorry if it was a bit complex and I went a bit of a deep dive, but that's kind of how we structure collections and how we see suitable and sustainable business is being able to be, how we can create a sustainable and good business in the future of fashion. That's how we see it.
I'm already like thinking how that would apply to our business of like making podcasts. Like, do you have podcasts which are like a very acquired taste, which would be the top 5%? And I think it comes down to a lot of businesses which work like that. But
absolutely,
it's interesting. But it's also like, so you like actually serve like 3 different customers, which of course can be one person given the situation they're in. But yeah, that's interesting that you have like very different groups of products which make up an amount of the total revenue.
Yeah, I think it's I could talk about just this topic alone for like 6 hours straight and still have more to say, because there's so many little paraphrases. There's a lot of reading between lines in this whole world, because it's not mathematical, it's creativity, but it's that beautiful pot mixing that more business aspect and that creative aspect that I think when you see like certain fashion brands or the Monclers, I love Moncler, for example, as a company. I love Louis Vuitton, of course, as a company. You see that they've done so well, all this. And this message I just said in a very fast way, you do see it resembled. Yeah,
it's the same thing, right? Like if you look at the runway shows of Moncler.
Of course.
It's way different than what you see an average guy wearing of Moncler, which is
absolutely, that's the pyramid we talked about. That fashion show would be that top 5% that maybe some clients or some artists do have access to it after the runway. Then they have probably what 70% of the revenue is, or 80%, which is the basic puffer, which is the entry price point of Moncler, which I think is around 700, 800 euros. So it's not even that crazy expensive for what luxury is. And that is what the puffer you'll see in the streets and in the day, which is the basic puffer with a patch here. Doesn't make too much noise, it's not too crazy, but it is inspired by that crazy runway show that the pioneers are talking about. So it's exactly that. You're completely correct.
How would you recommend the starting fashion entrepreneur to look at this pyramid? Because starting off, you can't make a collection with like 60 pieces. Completely. And would you say start out at the top because you want to stand out and create something for the 5% and then trickle down? Or would you say start at the bottom and create something that everybody can like?
Absolutely start at the top. I think the best marketing there is for your company is the product itself. There's many different types of marketing, but the best one is when you don't have to tell no one about your brand. It's just the product's so fucking amazing that people want it, people talk about it, people become ambassadors, word of mouth, and you don't even need to say a thing. I think there's many cases of it. You know, like even what's it called? This brand that just blew up recently in the US. They have the bottles. They make the bottles. Stanley cups.
Oh, Stanley cups.
You know Stanley cups, no?
Yeah, of course.
What the fuck? You know, like my question to that is, what the fuck? How crazy it's become, how huge it's become in the US. I know it's a company that's been running for a long time, but it just blew the fuck up. And it's not like their marketing was crazy. They did influencer marketing. They did good things, but it's just the product became such a marketing tool in itself that it blew the fuck up. So that is a case of study of like a good product is the best marketing possible. And I remember when they asked Phil Knight in an interview, they're like, oh, Nike is so known for its marketing, how amazing it is. And he's like, yeah, the biggest thing for our marketing is that our product is different.
Yeah.
And that's the key point.
Yeah. Yeah, I even heard like in an interview, I don't know who said it, like there's only one kind of marketing, which is word of mouth. All the other things of digital and TV and radio are amplifiers of great word of mouth. If you do not have word of mouth, you can put money behind the product. And of course you can sell one time to everybody. But after that, nobody's going to buy again. And I really like that way of thinking because then the focus gets put on the product and being able to deliver something that people like and want to talk about. And then everything else is just an amplifier of that.
Absolutely. So going back to the point you said initially, start at the top of the pyramid because that's gonna be the fantasy, that's gonna be the craziness, that's gonna be the standout, and that's gonna be the product that markets the whole brand initially. Because if you start with a line of basics, basics you buy once you know the whole identity and the cool shit that brand can do. I'll get the basic with their name on it too because I feel so identified and represented by all the other core products.
Do you think that's what's going wrong with a lot of people starting out in business? Because a lot of people start out a clothing business at some point in their life, it seems to me.
Yeah.
But a lot of people fail at it as well. And listening to your way of thinking about business, I usually see a white tee with a logo on it. And it's either a brand name or some icon. And it's cool, but doesn't tell me anything.
I'm not going to sit down here today and act like I know what the fuck works and what's not, because it wouldn't be true. I'm sure there's companies that have started just with a small logo and
true as well,
and they've blown the fuck up because of X and Y. Like even Pangaya, I'll put the example of Pangaya. You guys know Pangaya? They did, I think, like 80 million their first year, like some ridiculous numbers that I don't even know. Now I think it's in a bad situation, but initially the boom was crazy and they were selling sweats with like a little text here and a text there, nothing out of proportion, super simple product, and it blew up. So I'm not saying there's one truth, there's many truths, but from my point of view and from what I've done, I would say start by those flashy products, start by those messages, those icons that really stamp and have an impact in society and what people think and create love and hate,
of course.
That they move a little bit of the society or the culture. For example, for us, some of the products that first worked out and the things we did was we put out a t-shirt that said, "Be as happy as you seem on Instagram."
Yeah.
So it was like a t-shirt that was cool and graphic, but at the same time, it had like a message to it that had a deep and profound sound. No, it's like, all the shit you show on Instagram, that's very cool. You seem very happy, but hey, actually try to bring that to real life and live by that word and live by that message, because to this day in society, I think that's quite not well performed. No, everyone seems so happy, so cool, so in Mykonos or so in Ibiza and their Instagram stories, and then the real life that's not real life, bro.
Exciting.
Like we work,
true.
Most of us normal humans, let's say,
we're in the
the office, we're in a dark place filming a podcast. Like that is the truth. Maybe one day for a couple of weekends we go to Ibiza or something and we all have fun, but that's not the real truth, So I think that t-shirt had a message that connected very much with society. And that t-shirt blew the fuck up. It went on social media. People would take photos of it. Like I remember friends of mine, because this was one of the first blow-ups we had, and it was a product, friends of mine coming up to me and being like, yo, look at this IG story of this influencer. She literally took a zoomed in photo of the t-shirt I was wearing today and posted it on their story.
Funny.
And maybe it's like an influencer that has like 1 million followers. You're not paying him a dime. You're not even sending him the t-shirt. And they're doing free promotion of this product for you.
Yeah.
So that's when we
power.
talk about a product becoming marketing. That t-shirt with that message, even though how simple it was, it became like a huge tool to scale the company and blow.
Sure. Yeah. So that's the caveat I've got to add then. Like listening to what you said, like Pangea it was called, right?
Pangaya, I think.
Pangaya,
I don't know how it's pronounced exactly.
Find your 5%. It's finding the 5%. It's either the product, either the way you tell your story, either the way you do your branding or whatever it is. Find the 5% in which you can be the most unique for the people that like certain things. And then you're probably going to make a big boom, I think.
And there's also the 20-80 rule. I don't know if you know
course,
about this.
know it.
The 20% is going to have 80% of the impact usually.
Yeah.
Fashion works exactly like that.
Yeah.
Those 2 cool t-shirts that really blow the fuck up versus the other 20 designs you've done. Those 2 t-shirts are going to give you to eat for the rest of your life, maybe, or a couple of weeks. And the other's not going to have as much impact.
No, true. Looking at the future of Nude Project, you're opening a lot of new stores, doing a lot of new things. What can we expect from Nude Project in the coming 6 months? And after that, I would like to hear what we can expect in the coming 5 years, to have like 2 different time frames.
Lovely question. And I'm going to blow my nose one more time.
No worries. We'll cut once again.
How is it? What do you guys think?
It's crazy. You said that your goal is to inspire at least one person, and I can tell you already did. So it's crazy.
Thank you so
hear
much.
And to learn your story and behind the whole brand. Like I said, I'm also in fashion, and I know you guys from social, and it's really great to sit today here and to listen to your story.
That's
It's
amazing.
Really inspiring.
That's
Your
amazing.
story and your personality is who you tell and how you act here.
Thank you.
What I see. So
Thank you, sir.
I like it
And
as well,
Coco's
man.
already, he's just done hear me
Yeah,
talk.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like the people on my team, it's like, they're just done with me talking. It's like, they hear me in team meetings, they hear me in meetings, they see my podcast, the vlogs. It's like, they're like, yo, it's done. No.
Your energy is infected, so that's great.
Okay. The question was, the future of Nude Project, what we see
Yeah.
in the next 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So now we're cut up to speed. I think we've been able to touch on some things in the past. We've been able to talk a bit of the present, and now the future. I'm gonna start with the same thing I did. Everything is I don't know. I'm not. I probably there's a quote in Spain where it's just make plans and God laughs. No, because it's true. It's like I can make the coolest plans for the next 6 months. I can say I have it all figured out. I have a business plan. I have an objective I have to reach. But you really never know. You really never know.
No.
But I can tell you what the plans I'm
Yeah.
making. And let's see how it evolves.
That's
and then
enough for now.
we'll have this podcast as a timestamp to see what we did do and what we
Exactly.
didn't. I think it's all about change this year's for us. And I like to quote an email Alex sent to me at 5 a.m. in January. It was like, I think it was like maybe the 2nd or 3rd of January. He sent me an email at 5 a.m. Long ass fucking email with the title. The title was, what got us here won't get us there. This email gave me goosebumps because it's my business partner writing to me at 5 a.m. He'd been up all night writing this email. And the quote was, what got us here won't get us there. It was a message that he wanted to throw to me of like, what we've done is cool. We've grown a lot. Things have worked out in many senses, but this 5-year mark, to hit that 10-year mark, there's many things that need to change. And I think that's, ever since we got that email, I literally made it the title of like the main collection of this year. I say repeatedly in every team meeting, we do team meetings weekly, so I always try to repeat this and get this message ingrained in the team's head, because I think it's so easy to conform or to be comfortable once things have gone so well. Like, oh, I've gotten many things numerically and money-wise that I would have ever wanted as a child and that I could have never imagined getting. We're super comfortable. People say we're the best, blah, blah, blah. There's so much noise around that is so dangerous that for that to get in your head, because if that gets in your head, you start conforming for the first time.
You become complacent.
Yeah, and that complacency is the opposite of curiosity and is the opposite of wanting to push boundaries, no?
Yeah.
So it would be so sad because it would take away everything that's made us get to that point. So that was the message towards the team and towards us. Let's change shit up. We're at a point where we have a huge platform. We have thousands, millions of people listening to us, to what we have to say. It's time to shake shit. It's time to change. It's time to... Yeah, we want to change. And it's scary as fuck because what you said, how do you keep that balance? How do you keep a company of 150 people structured, keep making money, have a good base, and at the same time you're saying you want to change everything and everything you've done?
Yeah.
That's where we have to find that fine line of balance. That's where my job is, no? That's the beauty of this job. So what got us here won't get us there. What changes have we made? Many, But I like to detail some of the ones that are more impactful for me and that I think I can share with better, simpler, no? Because I don't want to get into the finer details. The vlog, for example, starting the vlog. It's a vlog we want to post weekly. We're starting to post weekly. I think we're 4 or 5 deep in. And at the end of the day, it's a commitment for me that I have a job. You know, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not on YouTube. I'm not like what you see on the podcast or in the vlog is like 2% of my life. So having to make that commitment to film one vlog a week, film one podcast a week is a huge commitment from my side to like have like the most of my job, which is creative directing, which is leading the whole brand department and leading the whole product department. And apart from that, my side hobby, let's call it, is documenting this all and vlogging and doing a podcast weekly. So that is a huge commitment from my side and is a lot of work that doesn't have a direct KPI to how it affects the business. But we have a huge belief that the community it creates, the way it's able to impact people and the way it connects with people. We don't know the numbers. We don't know how much it affects right now. In the business plan, the podcast loses money and the vlog loses money. If you from a number part of side, because there's salaries involved, there's a lot of work put into it. And not even counting my fee, let's say my daily fee of what my time is worth. Just off of the other numbers, we're losing money. But we do believe it has a huge impact on the people and the way it connects with people, and it makes the brand way more visible. And not only way more visible, it's like it creates a true community when we talk about community.
Yeah.
So the vlog and the podcast are huge. What other changes we made? We're opening our first ever flagship here in Amsterdam. Well, we're in Utrecht, but Amsterdam, which is an hour away, we're opening a fucking massive store. It's 3 floors, 450 meters squared. It's in a huge street, which I think it's called Leidenstraat.
Leidsestraat.
Yeah. My Dutch is tough. It's hard. The names on the streets are tough. For people that haven't been to Holland, my God, it is complicated.
It's a hard language.
But
je kan wel wat in het Nederlands zeggen en dan snappen mensen er niks van.
Yes.
That's how it sounds.
I have no idea what the fuck just happened. But Leidenstraat is next. The store we're opening is next to CP Company, Ghani, Daily Paper, and we're literally on that corner right there. It's our biggest gamble and biggest bet we've ever done as far as retail, because of course the rent prices is quite high. And not only that, the investment we're going to have to do into the store because of how big it is and the fucking crazy shit we want to do in the store is super high. It's like probably 4 times what we've ever spent in a different store.
It's movies, right? Movie themed and everything.
Yes, you saw the vlog. Well, there's literally the whole concept is like each room reflects one of... Kubrick, sorry. Okay. So Kubrick is a film director, and each of the different rooms in this massive little house, let's say, reflects different movies by Kubrick. So they all have like, it's not very specific or very explicit, but it has like a profound meaning of what each of the rooms represents. We're going to have like a movie theater downstairs, literally. We're going to have like a photo booth, a gaming room downstairs. Then we're going to have a coffee spot upstairs. We're going to do like parties weekly. We're going to have different activations, artist installations. It's going to be this crazy fucking mix, melting pot of culture. And it's going to be a huge job to get that assured. I'm going to have to spend way more time in Amsterdam to make this happen. And it's one of these things. When I said, going back to what I said earlier, I don't know if this makes sense. The whole concept of the store, what we're going to do there. But it seems exciting and it makes me happy and it motivates me. So I have no idea how people are going to react to it, or if it's going to be weird. There's going to be too much experience versus retail. I have no idea, but it excites me so much because I really do want to create a temple for creativity and the temple of passion. You know, that's my dream. I want to create a place where people can go to get it, not only buy clothes, but to get inspired, to feel part of a culture, to feel part of a movement. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do with this project. So it's so huge, such a big gamble, but I believe it in so much that I'm super excited. And also, like, I also have a big pat on the back now, which is we did the pop-up. We did our first ever pop-up in Amsterdam yesterday, the day before yesterday. And I think there was like a line of like 1,000 people waiting outside when we arrived. And like there was people camping from 2 a.m. We were opening at 11. There's people camping from 2 a.m. my mind was absolutely blown. Like, it was crazy. Think about it. Put yourself in my position for a second. I'm coming to Amsterdam for the third time in my life. And the third time I come to Amsterdam in my life, I arrive at this pop-up store that I wasn't even there. My team organized because I couldn't even make it to the organization. I arrived there at 8 a.m. and there's like a line of 300 people waiting outside camping that they've been waiting just to go inside the store and just to be part of this.
Imposter
So the people who are listening and now viewing my face is shocked because it's so shocking. It's so unreal. Yeah. It's so unhumane. It's so interesting in a way that that people are so connected. Even people in Holland, because they were Dutch people mostly, are so connected with this message that this brand is saying, that are willing to be in the Dutch cold weather, waiting outside just to enter the store and be the first ones to be in. Blows my mind. Yeah. To this day, still, like, when my mom asks me about certain things about my job, this is still one of the things that I don't know how to describe, because I'm like, and they're like, Bruno, why are they waiting outside? I'm like, Mom, I don't fucking know, honestly. I don't know. Like, I think I can't even like comprehend it, because I know what we do, but it's still one of these surreal feelings.
Sure.
So that was a huge pat on the back of like, oh, there's a community in Holland. Even though they're not Spanish speaking, they've connected with the message. They, even their culture is north, we're south. They might be very different from us. This message is not like the message the brand has doesn't depend on a country or location. It's a very global message, you know, and it's a thing that I think if we're able to execute properly, we're going to add our little grain of sand to the world that I think is going to have an impact and hopefully change the way people think and the way people view of how to work from their passion and the way people find that passion. So I'm excited.
Amazing. Do you have a bigger picture for the 5 years as well, or is it just going to be a wild fucking ride and you'll see where you end up?
To keep it truthful still, we have a very rough mind map and business plan of where we want to be in 5 years, but at the same time it's all smoke, because it's all like projections, numbers. I'm not even the best. I'm not the financial guy in the group, as you can tell, but they have all this formulas and stuff to map out how much revenue we're going to be doing in 5 years, how much EBITDA we're going to be having. There's all these tools, but it's all smoke because it all depends on one thing could change it all, too good or too bad. Yeah. So we do have projections of where we want to be, especially geographically, where we do want to expand, where we do want to be having an impact, which right now is all Spain and the north and the whole of Europe, which it's already, because we have a store in Milan, we have a store in Lisbon, we have 7 stores in Spain, including Ibiza, Madrid, Barcelona. And that is definitely geographically expanding and bringing our message to different cultures is definitely something we were going to be doing. Europe and South America, definitely, and maybe a tiny bit of US. So that's something we want to do. And at the same time, we have numbers we do want to reach because of what it would mean for the company and how we want to grow this baby to be like the most healthy company possible. I mean, always, Alex and me, we joke around this a lot, but we talk about the company as being like a little animal. We say animalito tierno in Spanish, but we say it's like this. We have this beautiful young little animal right now, which is the brand. No, it's like this healthy, this super relevant. Everyone wants to be close to this animal. It's super cute, blah, 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 blah. And our mission is to make this animal grow healthily and not overexpose itself, not fuck up with productions, not basically to fuck up as less as possible. And that is our job. And our job is to take care of this little animal. So in the next 5 years, my job is to fearlessly keep on this mission of how do we make this animal grow in the best possible way in the different countries we think it should be evolving, and not overexpose it too much where to a point we could kill the animal. No, because there's also a very famous refrain, which is the death of success. No, there's many deaths to businesses and to careers, but very famous is the people that get too much success too quickly, and you end up not hearing about them in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
That happens way too often. So we don't want that to happen to us, of course. And our mission right now is, how do we grow this with a bit of a vision to the future, so we know where we want to go. We have like a south and a north of where this company should be going, without losing the day-to-day tactical, being in the sauce, approving content, changing things, changing a caption, blah, 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 which is as important as that 5-year, 10-year vision you could also have.
Yeah. Great. So it's a lot of exciting, a bit of scary, and a whole
A lot of
surprises.
exciting and a bit of scary. Yeah. Definitely a lot of scary too. But I think the cool thing about when you're so passionate about your job is the only way to combat fear is with love.
Yeah.
And when we talk about scary moments, we're talking about fear. And a lot of that fear nowadays, there's 2 types of fear. There's the fear of real things, which is if a lion came in this room right now, I'd be scared, but in the best way possible, because that would make my body move and run the fuck out of here. So that fear is okay. But nowadays, in the generation we are, most of the fear is the fear of the unknown, the fear of what's going to happen. Oh, my boss set up a meeting on Monday at 9 a.m. He's never set up this meeting. Is he going to fire me? Is he going to say, tell me I'm not doing my job correctly? What is going to happen? So that expectation you're generating towards that conversation is that huge fear.
Yeah.
And most of the fear in today's society is that fear of anticipation to a problem than the problem itself.
For sure.
So I said that to say that, yes, there is fear. And as humans, it's normal for us to have fear because there's a lot of unknown. But the only way to battle that fear is with love.
Yeah.
And passion is love.
For sure.
We're so passionate about what we do and how we do it and how we want it to be done, that fear that could exist previously kind of dissolves or diminishes a lot because of how big that love is. And the love is just like hugging the fear in some sort of way.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Last thing I want to ask you is, what is your dream collaboration? Because you had a great collaboration with Playboy. And I know for sure that the creative brain that you've been thinking about the most weird or creative collaboration. So what is a collaboration people wouldn't maybe expect, but you would love to create it?
What a great question. Collaborations are very personal, no? Because I think at the end of the day, towards the audience, you're throwing a message of, oh, I think this brand is cool, or, oh, I feel represented with X values of this brand. No, so I think it's a very delicate position to be in the first place. But I'm quite vocal and quite clear of which collaborations I'd love to do. I did Playboy.
Yeah.
Playboy for me was a fucking dream. I'm not going to get into detail, but Playboy is one of my favorite brands. There's a lot of bad press generated about Playboy. There's a lot of distortion on the reality of it. But if you go to the Playboy of the 70s, the first initial born Playboy, the boom of Playboy, the editorial content they were doing and the brand they were creating is, for me, by far one of the best creations of brands I've ever seen. And when we talk personal brand, Hugh Hefner had one of the biggest. Hugh Hefner was doing personal brand before the concept of personal brand ever existed.
He would be the Dan Bilzerian on steroids.
Literally. And I think more pure and with a better message, because what Dan Bilzerian is, I'm not going to judge, but I do not resonate with at all. So Playboy was a dream. To anyone that still doesn't understand why I think Playboy is a dream, I'd very much recommend to watch a documentary on Hugh Hefner and Amazon Prime of the creation of Playboy. It's beautiful, and I think you can get more of a grasp and understanding of why Playboy was such a huge cultural shift in America in the 70s. We did Playboy. And we also, not only did we did 2 collaborations with Playboy, we recreated the Playboy mansion with a Nude Project mansion, which I can't get into detail with, but
Dream
was
come
one
true.
of the fucking biggest activations we've done at brand. And far from that, it was just the most fun I've probably had in my lifetime in a very long, long time.
I believe so.
So it's very cool because it was a reaffirmation of I can be having a lot of fun and do something that is very fruitful and very fun for me, that is at the same time also the best for the company. In the past, it always been like, no, I need to suffer. I need to work 12 hours. I need to have a bad time. Literally, I thought I had to be a suffering human to be able to get great results.
Grind.
And it's such a false message we've also been indulged as a society. So now I'm in the point where I think like the more fun I have, the best I do is probably going to have the best impact on the world, because people are going to be able to resonate with me doing what I like more than with me doing something that just to suffer or just to have a bad time.
Yeah.
So quick side note, we go back, the collaborations. My dream collaborations, Playboy was one for sure. Nike, Apple. I don't know if I have one more. No, it's Nike, Apple, and probably some luxury fashion house.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know which one to say or which one to define, but definitely those. Mainly because their story, I think, is the most inspiring. I think if we ever did something together, it'd be unprecedented, and people wouldn't expect it. I like when we do a collaboration, I like it not to be obvious. I like it to be a wow.
Yeah.
You know, like, what the fuck did I just see? I don't understand a thing. So I think Nike and Apple would definitely have that impact. And I love the brand so much, and I have so much admiration towards the founders and the brand in itself, that it'd be a fucking dream. Of course, there's many artists I'd like to collaborate with, many athletes, many brands. But if you have to say to the top of my mind, top 3 brands I'd collaborate, it'd be Playboy, Apple, and Nike.
Amazing. Sounds good. Hopefully we will see those in the coming years.
Please.
Bruno, thank you very much, man, for sharing our information, your knowledge, and giving us the time.
Thank you so much. I feel like I could have been here talking to you for
Me as
2,
well.
3, 4, or 5 hours more. Thank you for enabling me to be comfortable, to have a good conversation as a fellow podcast host. I know how complicated that could be, and what a big task it is to give the right questions and give that right seed to have the right answer you possibly want to create the best possible content for the audience. So thank you for that today. You've done a
Thank
great
you.
job. I felt so comfortable. I felt so present. I felt so excited. And that is hard to do as a podcast host. So congratulations. I understand why
hear.
things are going well for you guys, because you're doing an amazing job. And thank you for giving me the platform and the opportunity to be able to talk about something that is so profound and so emotional for me, which is this brand, which is my life, basically.
Of course.
So thank you so much, sir. And hopefully
You're
we'll see each
welcome.
other very soon, because I'm going
We
to be
will.
coming more and more to Amsterdam.
We will.
More and more active here, more there, and we're gonna do a fucking crazy party for the opening. So I hope to see you there too.
I'll be there for sure, and we'll probably run it back sometime.
And let's do something special too, okay? To the people that are watching now, which is the most loyal ones I can imagine,
sure.
because of the people that have fucking stuck through me talking shit for an hour and a half. I'd like to do. When does this podcast come out?
I think in about 4 weeks.
In about 4 weeks. I like to do like a little giveaway of maybe not the next collection, because I don't know when it comes out exactly, but let's give away 5 hoodies to
Yeah.
anyone that is commenting on this video, the people that interact with the podcast. I want to have like a nice gesture to your community and the people that watch you. So let's give
Thank you
out
so
5
much.
hoodies, so we have 5 more Dutch people wearing the brand, and we
Will
can
do.
give a little present to the people.
Amazing, amazing. So comment down below, then we'll get that set up. And Bruno, thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Take care.
Till the next one.
See you soon.
Adios.